Your role is going to set you apart no matter what age group or what skill group you're in. Your snare drum roll is one of your most fundamental skills and one of the things that you're always going to be asked to demonstrate in any audition involving snare drum. All right, we're back today with another lesson on Etude number 4 by Mitchel Peters out of the Advanced Snare Drum Studies. And today we're talking about rolls, specifically untied rolls on snare drum. The first example of this in this piece is on the 5th line where you come back to forte. You'll notice you have an 8th note roll tied to a dotted 8th note roll, and then there's no tie to the 16th note release. So what that means for you as a player is you're gonna have to create a little gap in your sound in between the roll and the next rhythmic articulation. So to practice this, let's first look at just a basic roll, like in the 2nd line, that's the first roll of the piece. And you may recall from the first lesson, I mentioned that I'm gonna generally do a sextuplet speed or 6 strokes per quarter note. So here it would be, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. You may also notice I'm doing a more open or a triple bounce roll. For those of you who are concerned with that type of thing, I do play a triple bounce roll on the loud end and more of a press, crush style roll on the softer dynamics. But I'm gonna more or less stick to that speed at both levels here in this piece. So for example, the next line, the piano roll, I would still play that as a sextuplet. So something like that. Now for rolls, there's a million examples of exercises out there, but one of the main principles that isn't always obvious to younger students is you actually get better at your roll by practicing one hand at a time. So whether it's a kind of press roll like that and you're trying to get the same exact sound and shape, or you're working on a louder, more open triple bounce roll, and again, you're trying to get the same shape and basically rhythm at this point. I'm going to find the most control when I take it one hand at a time, and then the next level is actually not putting it together in the full roll yet, but putting your hands together as double stops. Sometimes people tell you not to do double stops because it creates a weird rebound effect, but just do it because it's another thing that is just a little challenge that might as well get good at it. And then once you can do double stops, you can do a real roll. Okay, now last thing about rolls is for me, a triple bounce roll feels best around 16th note equals 120, aka 480 beats per minute in the rhythm that you're playing. So that's why I arrived at 6 tuplets for this. If you just do a quick bit of math, you notice that 76 times 6 is 456. So 456 is close to 480, right? And if we again divide by 4 now to find out what the equivalent of 16th notes would be, it'd be 114. So 114 is pretty close to 120. So you might have to support it a little bit more, but it still works well for me. Like I said, it feels comfortable and seems to fill out the sound in this room. So now that we have our 6-tuplet roll speed kind of understood, let's go to that first untied roll now and talk about how we're going to manage this. So what you'll notice I'm doing is triplet 16ths for that first 8th note, and then 4 strokes in that dotted 8th to get something like this. Now, it's a small space, and me doing that triple bounce roll allows me to put a slight gap and still keep the same hand speed. Let's look ahead to the quarter note triplet down below, and this will be a little bit easier to explain this concept here. This is something I learned from my teacher Jim Baber at USC. You can keep the same roll speed and just take away the last hand of that roll. So in other words, again, looking at these quarter note triplets, they would be sticking with that 6-tuplet roll speed. They would be 4 strokes per if we filled it in, right? So what we're gonna do is take away the last one of each of those four. So you saw me kind of ghosting it. So let's try it without the ghost. What that allows you to do is keep a consistent roll texture that you've already set up earlier in the piece, but take away that last stroke, and now you have that little bit of space in there to do what the composer asks. How I used to think of a roll section like this was sort of, okay, you've got your 4 strokes per quarter note triplet, and you got to kind of crunch them together so that there's a little bit of extra space at the end of each of those groups. And that works okay, but what I found for me is that it does change the roll texture because I'm crunching them a little bit, and it was very approximate. You know, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So if you want to keep those 4 strokes in there, then maybe what you can think of it as now with that new conception of taking away the last one is you have 4 out of a 5-lit. So that would be 15 strokes per 2 beats if you're thinking about that. Nested 5-lits, okay? So instead of, it'd be, and then something like that. So those would be my 2 options I would try for that passage, either the 3 or the 4. And if you do the 3, you're thinking about them as sextuplets, taking away the 4th. And if you do the 4, you're thinking about them as nested quintuplets, taking away the 5th. That'll just give you a very consistent approach to work on and develop a really clear rhythmic articulation through this quarter note triplet. A little bonus tip for you, it's not an untied roll, but on the second page, I did mention earlier in a previous video that I don't always do sextuplets in this piece. Here's an example of that. So to make it a little bit more exciting, rather than just doing 4 in these crescendos, and then 2 in this forte arrival, I actually squeeze a little one extra in all of them. So 5, 5, 3, 3, 3 in this measure. So, okay, to me that just gives it a little bit more excitement, a little bit more direction. That's kind of a climax, maybe the climax of the piece, except for the very end. But here, it's a really exciting moment with all these rolls getting faster, closer together. So I really wanted to arrive on the downbeat of the long roll. I believe in my initial recording, I just played sextuplets for both beats of that half note there. But now that I've been thinking about this piece a little bit more, I think I would actually put 7 in that first note, in that first quarter note. So that half note is now 7 plus 6 rather than an even 12, if that makes sense. Again, that's just to kind of give it a little bit more body in the front of the roll so that it really feels like it arrives on that downbeat and, you know, has some breathing room to sort of come down nicely. There's actually one other spot in that last part of that line, same line, where we have this rhythm. And I do go back to a sextuplet for the quarter note, but for the 16th note rolls, since they're so short, I'm going to do 32nd note rhythm there, 2s. And in fact, this is a lot like the opening measure, right? But with rolls. And mezzo piano, of course. Your roll is going to set you apart no matter what age group or what skill group you're in. Your snare drum roll is one of your most fundamental skills and one of the things that you're always going to be asked to demonstrate in any audition involving snare drum. But not only that, the ability to play a good roll means some degree of control of the rebound. And rebound control is really the heart of snare drumming. So getting a better roll is going to get you better rhythms as well. And better rhythms equals better playing for percussionists, whether it's snare drum or otherwise. So your snare drum roll is going to help every area of your playing, in my opinion. So hopefully that's a good start for all your rolls. See you next time.